don't know how to start this one, so I'm not doing my regular thing. Do you remember a while ago I had to go rogue? This was a while ago. This was last year, and I can't remember what my big kerfuffle was about it all, but I do remember a little bit. I was having a really hard time with my microphone situation, and I left and I went to the ocean and I just decided to record the podcast out. And I was out in the woods. I found what I thought was a quiet spot. Here we are with a new moon, and I'm in the tub. I don't know if I've done it from the tub before, but here we are. What is going on anyway? New moon time. Tend to like the new moon times. And this one is a little bit different. It's a little bit different. And I've been avoiding getting here to this place to talk about this new moon because I can't quite wrap my words around it. It's not exciting in the way that I felt some of the new moons were exciting. Like a lot of times new moons feel like I'm about to get to know myself again, and I'm delighted by this possibility. This one feels like I'm about to see myself all the way around. Like I'm about to see myself as if I could see myself from 360 degrees all around myself at once. And it makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable, but it's also really time to see myself this way. Does that make sense? Anyway, let's get right to it. If this is your first time listening, this is not the best one probably to get to know me. This one feels like I'm just diving in and you should know who I am before we start. I might even suggest to go back and listen to like 3 episodes back because I'm just feeling a little bit irreverent. I'm not in my sweet little closet that has the nice, what I think is nice sound. Can't you, this like the bathroom has this kind of echoey reverberation and I'm not even being careful. But besides all that, right, you don't want to hear all of my conundrums and my doubts. You just want to know, what does this new moon have to say? I'm Ann Headley. This is my podcast. What is going on anyway? This time, at least partly, from the bathtub. I take some time every 2 weeks to talk about the new moon and the full moon and what's going on with that. How does that make me feel? And my hope is that it relates to you and that somehow I'm able to grasp some sense of intuition and speak to this particular time now with a sense of clarity and maybe touching on some universal themes that we all feel, that we all are going through. Maybe not now, maybe you can relate to it from sometime in your past, but I think these moons and this time, we're sharing this time together. We're being affected by the seasons and the weather and the political atmosphere. All of us are feeling that and going through it together. We're not exactly individuals. I mean, we are and we aren't. We're all experiencing a lot of the same stimulus and input. And so we're having, like we're in a current. We're in sort of like this big ocean together. Last time was the full moon, and I did the podcast and I was really tired. And this time I'm probably less tired, but I don't have any less going on. I have a lot of fullness in my life right now. I don't feel like I have a handle on it very well. I'm not able to attend to everything that I want. And yet I'm excited about the things going on in my life. I just have a lot I want to do, I guess. And I want my bedroom to be tidier at the same time. It's in my fullness and my more my more busy self right now is letting my bedroom get a little less tidy. And my bedroom for a while was just like this perfect, beautiful sanctuary. And I had all of the things that I loved. And it was just, I loved how it was. I loved the quiet peacefulness that I felt in my room. And I loved my bed. And right now I'm just, I can't get back to that sanctuary-ness. There's something about my sanctuary has become also crowded and sort of pushed to the side. It's like I keep waiting for some perfect time to tidy, organize, dust, polish, sometimes I just like to arrange things. Like I'm ready for kind of a reformation of the way I have my stuff arranged. And the time hasn't come yet for that. I'm hoping that sometime this summer, there's a time for a little bit of rearranging. I'm saying all this and I'm trying to point out that I think that has to do with this moment, that there's a rearranging going on, not just stuff, right? I think this is happening in a sort of energetic way, that we have a way that we manage and arrange. See, it's not fair for me to just talk about energy. I wish I had better language, but let's just try. I think that there is a way that we manage our energy and the way we interact with spaces around us that affect our energy, but I mean, frikes. If I say frikes, then I'm not cussing, and then I don't have to say that this podcast is explicit in the end. But if I do cuss, then I have to tick this little box that says explicit content. I'm trying not to do that because I'm a good girl and I don't cuss. That is just a side note. I'm a little bit frustrated because I don't have these words here that I would like. And I'm like embarrassed for myself to use the word energy in a metaphysical sense and not have more clarity around it. But I still have to go in here like as if I'm just talking to you and I'm trying to explain something and you're over there trying, even though we're not having a back and forth conversation, maybe you're trying to find words too that help, that we can find our way here together. So what I'm talking about is not the way I'm arranging my room actually. Like, am I putting my stone collection over here and putting this particular photograph in a frame on this particular wall? All of that also matters. But how we arrange our energy around us, how we use routine to build our capacity to handle the day as it comes. So the way we wake up, what we do first, the routine we have as our morning cleansing routine. I mean, and not a fancy cleansing routine, but whatever it is that you do you brush your teeth first? Do you go to the bathroom first? Do you wash your face with cold water? I put rose water in my eyes. There's like certain things that we do that prepare us to take on the day. And then there's other days that I sort of like tuck back under the covers and I wait till the very last minute until I have something to do. And then I rush around and I don't get to manage my space the same way or manage the way I'm feeling about the spaces around me in the same way. So does that make a little bit of sense? I think this particular new moon has to do with the clarity of seeing the way we really are, not the way we want to be. So the way I really am includes those mornings when I tuck back under the covers and I just wait till the very last minute and then pop out of bed, put the first thing on, and kind of rush out the door. And it includes those mornings when I take lots of time and care and I have a lot of respect for my body. Really, I kept waiting and waiting to do this podcast. The new moon has passed. This is the day after. I kept waiting because I thought there would be some more clarity about what I was seeing for this podcast and what I would... Oops. I just slipped a little bit. What I was seeing was a picture of me in my garden, because this is a perfect time. This is the flowers are blooming, the soil is lovely, the mornings are cool, the days are warm. It's just perfect gardening time, except it's super buggy. I've got bug bites all over right now. Ankles, the uncovered places. And there's something about the way I've always been where I looked to what I thought was the perfect parts of a thing. Like the perfect parts of gardening would be the exalted blooms. And the imperfect parts would be the mosquitoes, the black flies, there's these little bugs that I don't know what it is, but it curls up my hydrangea leaves and it makes a little nest in there. I guess it's some sort of caterpillar. And so my hydrangea leaves curl up and it's ugly, I think. And sometimes I go just by hand and I like open it up and I get rid of that little cocoon. What I'm trying to get at is that right now is a time to see and pull into perspective everything around us. So my gardening experience of late spring includes everything. And it includes the turned over pots and the plastic 6-packs and they're all over the place. Little plastic plant markers, not ones that I've made, but ones that have come, like my 6-pack of marigolds and petunias and lobelia. And they're just sort of like scattered about this like plastic trash in my yard and my garden, marking plants that I don't need markers for. And I have to ask the question, who is the garden for? Who am I hiding the messiness from? And what is that about? And this is some kind of unlearning that I'm engaged with. The perfect garden is for who? It's a biggish question for me, and I wonder about even mowing my lawn. Who is that for? Now, there's part of me, I just love a freshly mowed lawn. I really do. But why? And do I love it more than the middle of the woods and the trodden path in the woods? And these two things are very different and very different experiences. And I know that partly I love that mowed lawn. It's very colonial. It's a very unwilded place and situation. I have this sense that I can walk barefoot. Well, I also have the sense that I can walk barefoot in the woods, possibly more carefully. But this lawn comes from an ideal that I have in my mind about bettering my station in life, which comes from this very old English ideal around looking rich. Ugh, I don't even want to have this conversation right now. But what I'm saying is that right now I have to look at not just like what kind of garden do I want and why, what looks good, what pleases me and why, but breaking down the ideals of what I thought I wanted and why seems to be very important. Now, I'm not ready to let go of my peonies, but I'm also aware that I have a background that says a pristine garden indicates some sense of wealth. And I'm just so much wondering about, what do I even know about money and wealth right now? What's the backside of it? I'm doing my gardening, and my ideals around what I think is a beautiful and perfect garden are not the work of one person. It's been a long time since I've been, but you can go visit this garden up in Northeast Harbor, Maine, and it's the Rockefeller Garden. You call this number and you get on a list to go visit the garden when the actual Rockefeller family is not there enjoying their own garden. And it really is a beautiful garden, but there's a staff of gardeners there. I don't know how many, at least 10, making it that beautiful. And that's sort of in my mind without even meaning to. That's the picture I have in my mind of like a perfect garden. And that garden is not about the relationship between one person and the space around their home where they live. And the reality is I am one person with sometimes help from the other people who live here. I don't have a gardener yet. Maybe I will. I love my relationship and my experience with the space around me, the outside space around me. And I can't imagine wanting it to look a certain way that it would be worth it for me to lose my hands in the dirt. That's the whole point of it for me. And yet, I still have an ideal picture in my mind of what I think I would love it to be. I think we do this with many things. It's sort of the way we've been socialized to look at magazines and think we should have this magazine, or watch TV shows and think we should have something other than what we have. Okay, so this is capitalism. And I guess right now I'm trying to look at what's the ideal for me that's outside of that unexamined picture of the way I think things should be. I hope I'm not going around in circles too much here. I'm just really trying to talk this through and get this picture out. So the picture that I had of what I wanted to talk about for this podcast was the garden and the experience of being in the garden and with all of the organisms involved, the plants, the animals, the microbes, involved in caretaking a space which is not a wild space, but has some elements of wildness inserted into it. What does that look like? And how can I see my life, the bigger picture of my life, in this way? There are elements of wildness that I want to insert into my thinking. And I want to extract some ideals of capitalism from my thinking so that I can be free to see things as they are, including the way I see myself and the way I see my physical body, which has forever been caught up in the way I think it should be, and not so much appreciating the way it actually is. And that has started to come to squeeze together to this place where it's so painful to be unkind to myself in that way. And I don't know how not to. It's like a negative kind of self-talk that thinks I should be stronger, thinner. But at least, thank the Lord, I don't feel that I need to have hair anymore. How weird would that be? Oh, it would be so weird to be hairy again. But again, I am resting on this. If you go back and you look at why women don't want to be hairy, well, we can put that right back into colonial patriarchy. Thinks that women should be hairless, and especially women that are trying to distinguish themselves from indigenous people. You can go look it up. It's disgusting. But here I am being like, oh, I'm hairless, so I have one of those points of, it makes me more white to be hairless. I really don't want to talk about that right now, but it is an interesting conversation. Back to this new moon, though, really. I had this thought about this new moon, and it sounded like I don't know anything, not really, about anyone. All I know is the way I think about myself and other people, the way I think other people are. And when I let go of what I am thinking and believing, I don't know what's going on. Let me get into it for you. I just, it's me following along. I'm the main character in my life. It's a little bit different every day, like I was talking about how we're managing our energy and our stuff. So I notice myself and how I can make it through a hard day, or how I have sometimes those days that are really easy and I just breeze through them. Well, most recently, I've been in a relationship with a friend who has Alzheimer's dementia. It's been really curious for me, this relationship. I'm spending a lot of time with him. And the first rule of wisdom in being in a relationship with someone who has this diagnosis is to refrain from disagreeing with them. And initially, that doesn't seem hard. Like, hey, I'm not that confrontive. I don't go around disagreeing with people, right? But actually, really, really, as I watch my behavior, I notice that I'm kind of constantly disagreeing and inserting my take on reality, as if my experience of reality is in competition to exist with other people. And it's not like I'm disagreeing outrightly. It'll be like, oh, I've heard this, or I read, or I watched, I saw this little bit, like I'm one-upping my sense of knowledge and experience as if I'm being helpful. But really, in some ways, it's disagreeing with whatever it is that this person just said. And this comes up really quickly with somebody with Alzheimer's who can have a sense of reality that really doesn't match my experience. And instead of disagreeing with it, a really great thing to do is to go in and say, oh, tell me more about that. Or, oh, I see. I'd like to know more about that. Can you tell me more about that? Instead of saying, oh, no, it's not cold outside at all. It's summertime. It's not going to snow tomorrow. But if I was working with someone with Alzheimer's, I might say, oh, did you hear that it was going to snow? And just keep being curious about whatever it is that they're talking about. So if my friend says, ooh, it looks like it might snow later, and it's June, and it's 70 degrees out, instead of defending my version, which I just did, it's June and it's 70 degrees out, you should believe me, I extend my definition of later and I say, oh yes, isn't it pretty when it snows? Or when they say, I'm going to go get my pilot's license this week, I say, oh, you'll be busy then, rather than saying, you're 82, you're probably not getting your pilot's license this week. And it's so lovely to agree with people and let go of defending reality, of being the defender of some reality. I've extended this practice to other places in my life. And I just sort of say to people now, because I practice this a lot, you're right, that makes sense. That makes sense. It's my sort of top favorite phrase at the moment. I mean, it does make sense that whatever someone believes to be true is true for them. And this is my practice, can I suspend my defense of my version of reality just for a moment to allow for the kind of connection that means someone else feels listened to? The question for me that comes up is, why do we spend so much time defending our versions of reality? And what's at stake? And what if we didn't? And I'm extending this idea to the garden, to my sense of myself and how I should be in the world. Defending my reality may also be defending my unexamined biases, my unexamined prejudices, conditionings, and the way that I was socialized to think things should be. This may not include a deeper reality of who I am really as a human being on this planet. I don't mean to say that we aren't our conditioning. Of course we are. But we know, we've been immersed in that for long enough. We know what that is. But do we know who we are without it? And when I practice this work of letting my idea of reality drop off when I'm spending time with this friend of mine with Alzheimer's, I'm starting to understand something about relationships that doesn't have to do with defending a sense of reality. And I don't know what to make of it quite yet. I don't know what I think about it. But I know that so far I've been safe not to be this sort of police officer of the way I think things should be. I'm still safe in relationship, and I don't have to defend reality. Does this make sense to you? I'm starting to come around to understanding what I'm trying to say. But I think this new moon is about, what if we just let go a teensy little bit, just enough to make space for the relationships to be whatever they are, outside of a conditioned sense of the way things should be. So there's a kind of freedom. And isn't that lovely? Because this is June, this is Pride Month, and we've come so far in letting people be who they are, love who they want to love in the ways that they want to love. So there's something about dropping the rigid structure so that we can have a relationship with our own freedom and wildness and complexity in the order of the natural world. So if we could let some of our structure around who we think we are and who we think we ought to be, maybe not drop away, but maybe just like move back for a minute, just suspend that for a moment. Who does our wild self want to be? How does it want to grow and interact with the people, the things around it without being confined? It's like the pot is we're out of the pot, we're out of the 6-pack, and we are being placed somewhere where we will now interact with a new environment. I find that as I interact with my Alzheimer's friend, that I have to use different ways of being in relationship, different tools. And it reminds me very much of the joy and freedom of being with kids and younger kids who may not exactly know that, what's funny about it is these kids are not conditioned yet to believe in the world in the same way that I do as an adult. And I always find that refreshing and funny and joyful and playful. And I feel that same way with this friend, that the construction of reality isn't quite the same. He can say to me, oh, later I'm going to go to Greenland and I'm also going to go to Colorado in the same day, and these kinds of things are fantastical. And if I don't disagree with it, it's really fun, imaginatory play. And so there's something about that relationship for me to relax and enjoy play and enjoy imagination and not be so restricted by my ideas of the way things should be. There's something in that right now, this kind of like creative flow. There is the need to imagine a new way of being. I keep talking about this. I feel like I say the same thing every time. And this imagining the new world includes somehow letting go of the way we think we should be. All right, I've said it enough. Let's see what the I Ching has for us. Hey, I Ching, what would be the best thing? What would be the best thing to know and to understand about this particular new moon time until we get to the full moon? What can we know to help us now? And so we get 14, possession in great measure. This is a time of great power and clarity for you. By conscientiously following the path of proper principles, you have come into partnership with the higher power and enjoy the influence of the creative everywhere in your life. There is a changing line. It's the third one. And I like this because I think it speaks to what I'm trying to speak to. This is a time when the superior person lets go of what is incorrect in himself and gives to others what is good in himself. I think that is me saying, let go of the disagreeing with other people's realities. Only a petty person is selfish with his possessions. And I think our greatest possession is that sense of kindness to another, that sense of expansive openness to receive relationship. Hexagram 14 moves to 38, opposition. And I'm thinking of this as a way of just seeing, not as a bad thing, but like I said before, opposition is sort of seeing the whole picture, seeing that gardening includes getting bug bites. It includes losing some plants. It includes the joy of finding others. Like I have a whole little colony of tomato seedlings that just volunteered, and I'm really excited about them, and they're very happy little tomato plants. Opposition 38. It says, misunderstanding truth creates opposition. There are many occasions in life which tempt us into negative thoughts, anxiety about the future, mistrust of another person, bodily pain, fear of failure, or even success. All of these tempt us into mistrusting life and believing that life is against us. When we fall into this trap, we are in opposition to the workings of the creative, and success becomes impossible. I think this is sort of where we're at, is opening to allow all of our anxieties and our mistrusts and our fears to exist alongside of all of our hope, all of our compassion, all of our joyfulness, and that we, instead of this sort of duality back and forth, this war between these inside of ourselves, there's something about, I keep seeing this big circle around us. So there's something that's more buoyant and contained about letting all of it just be. We don't have to fight against our fear and anxiety. We let it be part of the way we experience the world. The simple truth is that every moment in every person's life contains the teaching he or she or they most need at the time. It's not always immediately apparent why a thing is happening, because the sage is often inclined to work in a roundabout fashion. Nonetheless, whatever is happening now is what must happen. Our only task is to trust the process and allow the lesson to seep in. So we're returning to acceptance, to neutrality, and then we can let go of the opposition inside and open the way for understanding. And then, I always like this part, for good fortune to arrive. All right. I have another book that I want to read the interpretation from, and yet I do not want to leave this warm bathroom and go find it. So I'm going to just let this be a bad podcast this time and move on. The full moon will be here soon enough, and phew, I don't even know what that one has in store for us. So that's it. This is it. This is the new moon in June. It's a new moon in Gemini. And I wish you well, as always. You can find out more about me at www.annheadley.com. You can find me on Instagram at Ann Headley. It's simple, ANNHEDLY. You can always reach out to me. Let me know how you are doing and how this podcast landed for you. I look forward to hearing from you as always. Thank you for being here and listening. May you be well, and may you know peace. May all beings everywhere, whether known to me or unknown, be well, and may they know peace. Bye for now.